All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for today. I am your host for today. My name is Brendan Peterson. I'm a product marketing manager here at Scribe Software. Today, we're going to talk through improving the customer experience leveraging iPaaS. Some of the things you're going to hear today come from our real customers out there in the world. Some of them are things we've seen, kind of a aggregate solution across a lot of different uses that we've seen in the past. So it may not be one named customer, but we certainly have seen a lot around the customer experience, the field service area, and just the customer service desk in general as far as integration is concerned. So to start off with a few housekeeping items for the webinar today, the recording is going to be sent out via email in the next couple of days after the webinar is done. So you will be able to get that recording link. Feel free to send it around, share it with anyone who couldn't make the webinar today. There is, if you haven't used On24 before, a little panel of icons on the bottom of your screen. This is what you're going to use to adjust the sound, post anything you want into the Q&A. If you want to tweet us, use that hashtag data integration and at Scribe Software. You can also download a copy of the deck. This will be part of the follow-up as well, so if it's not in that resources area, don't fret. We'll make sure we get this to you in the follow-up communication. I'll say that if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to post them into the Q&A. We're going to try to leave some time at the end of this 30-minute presentation for some of those questions that you've got. As they come top of mind, though, do feel free to put them into the Q&A section, and we'll be sure to address all of them at the very end of this presentation. So a brief overview, this is really just verbatim from the registration page, but I wanted to recap what we're talking about here. What we're really talking about is how you can help improve that entire customer experience through integration. This is going to be both for call centers, field service organizations. Really what we're going to do is we're going to share with you some of the things that we've seen successful in our customer base. Scribe's been around for 20 years. We had over 14,000 customers, so we've seen a lot of experiences with our customer base. And this customer experience component is really a new kind of the hot topic, new buzzword that's happening out there. It is integration solutions that we've been seeing forever. It just happens to be a lot more, importance is being placed upon it in our current kind of market that we're seeing out there. And I'm sure you've heard about it, which is probably why you're at this webinar. So because of that, I want to start off with just a couple of statistics that we found that we are out there online. This is two of dozens that we have, but really these two I think illustrate a pretty important point. The first one is that this customer experience is the leading priority for organizations. So you can see that far left-hand side that 22% of those customers surveyed ranked this as their #1 priority. It goes down into marketing, mobile, personalization, social, some of the other areas within your business that is going to be a focus, but this customer experience truly is the focus for so many enterprises out there. That second one, the value of customer experience, is a really interesting one. So what you can see is basically that today we have nearly over 80% of individuals are going to pay more if they have a better experience with that vendor, that product, that solution. Now that's really critical because the second stat is by 2020, that experience is going to outweigh the product capabilities or the price differential against your competitors. So this experience is not just something that we need to look at because we want our customers to be happy. If you want to keep them being your customers, you really have to focus on this because it is something that across the industry, across different verticals, this customer experience, the CX, is really a focus for a lot of technology innovations and a lot of initiatives that are happening in these businesses. So this really, we see this not as the challenge of CX and how you're going to have to roll this into your organization. This is an opportunity for those of you who are out there and who are thinking about this to differentiate yourselves. You can start with that call center. Call center, service desks, these have always been seen as a cost center for years and years and years. Well, we want to turn that around and switch that to be your frontline customer experience reps. This is a big change because you always have a service desk because without fail, things are going to go wrong. When someone calls into you because something went wrong, not everyone's thinking about trying to make that customer, upsell, cross-sell, buy more, be more knowledgeable. Mainly, they're trying to just get that problem fixed as fast as possible so that the angry person goes away. Really shifting that focus by enabling your call center teams to be the individuals who have all that information on hand. We're going to see with some of the integration stories, by giving them more data, they now can be more the face of your company that you want to put forward. We want them to be knowledgeable, we want them to be friendly, but we also want them to ensure that your customers know everything that's been happening. Is there an opportunity for them to get into a different maintenance tier? Is there a way that if they change their product plans, they get additional features or functions that would help them in their current situation they're in now? So really changing your mindset about that having to be a necessary evil into a real opportunity for you to engage with your customers over and over again. Really also thinking about multi-channel, omni-channel. There's a million ways to say it, but in today's world, not everyone wants to pick up a phone and call into an organization. You have mobile devices. They want to be able to go into a live chat. You want to be able to tweet at a company and get a viable response back. So understanding that is a huge part. Rolling it into your whole service center is a critical play, but also the technologies that are there, you have to make sure that that customer experience, that journey, is across those channels, so that you know that when Amanda was mad about her Tupperware being malfunctioning, she tweeted at the company. Then she called in to get a refund. If those two things aren't tied together, you've now driven that individual further away from your brand because you don't seem to have your pieces together. The last piece is, reducing friction. Friction and frustration leads to churn. It's across, again, platforms, across verticals, across product lines. But by allowing your teams to reduce that frustration in your customer base, you really are driving your customers to be more loyal to you. So it gives you a nice, unique ability that you can get in and really use as an opportunity to show value in your company and your brand. On the bottom here, there's a quote from Gartner, but basically it's saying that in the next year, more than half the organizations that are out there are going to be putting significant changes into the businesses to improve that customer experience. So this really is not just something that's been thought of and dreamed up. Analysts and the market are pushing us into this direction, and what we're seeing is that as we go forward, you really need to address this as a true project. It's not just a sideline component. You need to invest in the technologies and into the project plan in order to make sure you get this done properly. So with that being said, we as an integration company see our platform, and all integration platforms for that matter, as a resource to you that you can leverage to make this easier. And iPaaS is a cloud platform so that you can access it anywhere from anything. So responsive, being able to have your team members get into there to augment and change integrations. Supporting that hybrid integration model. So especially with this customer experience in mind, you may have important data that's sitting behind your firewall that is critical to your organizational structure. There's no need to get rid of that or to have it be difficult to gain access to. By leveraging integration, you can bring that data out and bring it up to your cloud deployments. Because an integration platform supports that hybrid model, it could be cloud to cloud, cloud to ground, or a mix of both. And then also, this focus on usability. This is allowing you to have different team members being able to perform the duties of someone who might be a developer persona in the past. This is allowing your teams to be a lot more agile and dynamic, really focusing on that kind of bimodal IT, where you may have some large-scale deployments of technology that you have to work with and it keeps the lights on. But to be able to move into the CX space, to be able to keep up with the competitors around you, you might need to be that little more agile, feel a little more startup-y in your mentality. And that's where something like an integration platform comes in, because it's generally built to be accessible by a business user, by someone who's a line of business individual. It doesn't need a set of developer skills, and it doesn't need a lot of upfront education and knowledge to get some of these things up and running. So really expanding that capability across that different customer base. We also think about integration in a bit of a different way. It's not just about getting that integration built and deployed. It's about keeping it up and running for the long term. So by utilizing some of these different components like the visual design environment, that gives you a UI where you can go and make edits and changes as things go and evolve. You want to make sure that if you add a custom field, you can map that in very easily within a few minutes. You don't want that to be a 2-month project to add a simple field here and there. By having that kind of multi-tenancy in the cloud, if you have bigger deployments, bigger organizations, you can departmentalize that integration approach and give access to it to the individuals who need it. You might have a integration deployment for your CS team, for your CX team, for your sales team, and your marketing team. So you can pick and choose how you deploy that integration model based on the fact that we have that multi-tenancy and we have that flexible deployment. So it can be cloud to cloud, ground to ground, cloud to ground. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter just by department for organization wide. The last thing is, especially around iPaaS, iPaaS is this usage model. So you basically pay for what you use. There's different ways that you can tier out pricing, but it's trying not to have that kind of shelfware cost where you're going to have it sitting there for 4, 8, 12 months before you're ready to use anything with it. This is going to let you be a little more nimble and agile with what you want to work with, and you can scale up and down as your needs change. This I won't go through in depth, but basically what I want to get the point across here is with an iPaaS like Scribe Align, that architectural model, there's a lot of components below the surface. So really from that top level is all the interaction model, our UI, our public API layer, webhooks, or API endpoints. That's how you get into the platform, but beneath the surface, there's a lot of logic and work that we've done in order to keep businesses up and running, auto-scaling resources, keeping that dynamic model in place, allowing you to have that multi-tenancy. So there's a lot of thought and work that goes into that integration middleware that really you never see below that initial UI component. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through a few of these workflows, and then after I walk through them a little bit verbally, I'm going to show you our product and just a few examples of how this actually works. So how these pieces fit together, just to give you a better understanding when I talk about this visual design environment, when I talk about that accessibility, you can really see it for yourselves to understand what people are doing with it and how. So we're going to start around the call center. This is really where a lot of people think about customer experience, customer service. This is where that lives. We've broken it apart into a couple of big topics. The first one is those automated engagements. So what you want to be able to do is when events occur in that day-to-day model within your customers, you want them to have something triggers off without someone having to hit a button or having to have an individual write an email or make a phone call. The example we have is around phone calls into a call center. So with today's age of mobile phones, you can go through a dead zone, you can drive through a tunnel, and suddenly that 35-minute phone call you had with your agent is useless because your call got dropped and you have to start back in from the beginning. We helped an insurance vendor with this where basically they were having some problems with this and they needed some kind of automated way to get those individuals back on the phone with that agent. So what they did is they used integration to say whenever this type of case is closed with a status of call dropped, immediately fire off a message into the email platform that they leveraged in order to have that drive an email message out to that individual. So when we first came into this project, the initial scope of that process alone was in the range of 9 months for custom developed code to be able to pull all those pieces together and just how it fit into the timeline of other projects they had. We were able to work with their admin teams, and they were able to use, in this case, Scribe Online, in order to build that out in a couple of days, and they were able to actually deploy that within a week or so as far as their live call center agents were concerned. They then were able to take that and drive that into some of these other areas, so like personalization. Once they saw the value there, they decided, hey, we can do this and send out happy birthday emails. We can drive for teacher awareness and drive discounts to those individuals. So I can personalize and segment based upon the data I have by collecting it across multiple channels and then leveraging it into those engagement models to give that person the touch and feel that they want and need. The last piece is about the engagement history. This is a really great one when we talked about turning that call center from a cost center into more of an opportunity. where if I am a call center rep and I'm getting a call from an individual where I can see they've purchased a specific device from me, they're having some type of problem, but I know the next version is coming out in the next 3 to 6 weeks, and I can see that their warranty is going to allow them to buy that at a discounted rate. I can leverage that information to give that into that person's hands to make them have the informed decision. Fix it now and get a better price on a better product in a short term. If I didn't bring back some of that different, the purchase history of what they were working with, how many times they've purchased, or what's coming out in my product roadmap, I'm simply not equipped to have that information where I'm solving that one problem, but I'm not looking at it as a bigger picture. So again, it's really some of the ways that you can drive these team members to be a little more effective in what you want them to do by providing them data that they're not going to have otherwise. Next slide is more of just a service center. So this is where you may have a field service rep. You might be someone who is working in manufacturing and need to make sure that your equipment is humming along the way it needs to. So the first thing is about preventative maintenance. This is really more about the emergence of IoT and smart devices. So what you want to be able to do is have those devices and have that sensor data be able to alert you when they need to have maintenance. The example that we talked about with this was a train company where they have some advanced sensor technology within their brake pads. And what that technology was able to do was it would communicate outbound to tell that kind of central hub that this brake pad is starting to show signs of wear and it's probably got about a 2-month window before it needs to be replaced. So by bringing that information back into their central service desk, they can start to look at the different schedules around maintenance for other trains that were going on. How can they fit this inside of 2 months to address that problem before it becomes a problem? So by doing this preventative maintenance and by utilizing the technology, they're able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars of downtime and train delays by simply addressing them and fitting into the schedule just like you would a standard service call. Another area is prior case knowledge. This is actually a huge one for us internally, where when a person calls in, they may get one of any number of individual sales reps or support reps when they reach our desk. By bringing that information in, we can see what their past history has been. So if they've constantly had some kind of an issue with their network infrastructure, we can see that quickly so we can diagnose and either eliminate or focus on that area. If I'm someone who, again, I'll go back to that phone example, and I'm calling in and I can see that this phone has given me just grief after grief after grief. If I don't have that and I'm being treated as a net new individual every time, I'm not sure I'm going to be sticking with that device for very long. And again, from a personal experience, I had my water heater broke probably 2 months ago, and I was able to work with the same company, the same organization, the same people would come out and talk to me. And because of that, they happened to know, what the history was with my woes and worries with this thing. But I can imagine going with a bigger company where it's a branch type service, where if someone sends out, they're never going to know all the work that's already been done to this machine. So they're always going to start from that beginning. They're going to charge me more money because it's going to take them longer to get to the same end conclusion, whereas if they had that prior knowledge, they could skip a lot of that and kind of get you at the 80% mark. Then lastly, that upsell knowledge, it's great for a call center. It's even better for someone who's on site, because as you're speaking with someone, they can bring up those different components and say, you've got this tankless water heater, but did you know you could also, if you ran your gas line here, you could add in this new water, this air conditioning component. So you can start to try to see, again, that whole picture by having the knowledge of what you've got available, what kind of inventory you have, and treating everyone as a salesperson. Everyone has the opportunity to cross-sell and upsell your customer base by giving them that knowledge that they need in order to go through and do that. Last thing I want to bring up here before I dive into a brief demo is just some of the really common technologies that we see out there in the stack. So sales and CRM, we Salesforce, Dynamics, Sugar CRM, NetSuite. These are some of the big four that we have, especially around the service industry. So all these solutions have some service platforms that are built on top of it. So you can see, on the third bullet, things like Field One and ServiceMax. These are things that are part of Salesforce and Dynamics, but it's not the entire solution. So you want to make sure that even if it is inside the same application, there might be other data points you need to move around in order to see on the account object What's a summary toll of all the cases that they've had? Where is their warranty at, and are they out of compliance? Marketing automation is huge. So being able to track those negative sentiment tweets, bringing that in and causing it to have a service engagement, being able to communicate outbound based upon the different social channels that people want and need to work with. Really important components as far as keeping that omni-channel model open and running. And then last is just the other things. Big data, IoT, old data, legacy data. These are all places where you have the opportunity to capture, or you've already captured, good data around that person that you need to share with your different teams in order to give them, again, that full, complete picture. So what we're going to do is share out my screen here. And again, I'll keep this really brief because I want to keep it to our half hour and leave some time for questions at the end. But our platform and iPaaS in general is really built with this in mind. So we have here our integration platform as a service. I've got a couple of different solutions that we have. So I've got things where I'm looking for negative tweets. So I've got a connection into the Twitter API, and I can see here that I've got a couple of pieces built where it's going to look for those individuals that have had a negative tweet. It's going to find those individuals, add a contact, and create a case. So that way, when I see that Amanda tweeted out, being mad about her Tupperware melting in the microwave, I can get a notification of this. It can trigger out an outbound engagement with that individual with a support case on the back end saying, hey, we saw that you didn't like this. I can see from your purchase history that you bought Tupperware 10101, and oh, by the way, that is a non-warranted item or is under recall, so you can get back to us. So there's a lot of ways that just by capturing some of those things floating out there in the internet, that you can work a lot more closely without a lot more work with those users. And building it out is quite simple. It's a drag and drop interface, very straightforward to work with. The other type of engagement is more that real time, so that dropped call alert. In this case, instead of querying and kind of crawling through the internet, what we're doing is we're waiting for something to alert us. So this is waiting for a dropped call case to happen. When that does, it triggers an outbound message to the middleware where we simply capture that and then do something with it. So it's a real-time integration. It's happening as soon as it is occurring in that actual business model. So that way, when my phone drops a call, before I can get to the point of stomping my feet and saying I'm never going to work with them again, I've already got an email in my inbox of how I can get right back to that same agent. So it's really critical to have that thought of not just, what would I like for this experience to be, but how can I make that experience happen? What technologies do I have in place already? And it might just be stitching some of these things together, utilizing a platform like an iPaaS in order to make that happen. Lastly is just the kind of IoT space. So this is much more, we're talking about big data. So we've got Amazon Redshift is involved in here. And basically what we want to do is that whenever we have something happen in that sensor stack, we want to be able to bring that back, update our data storage, and also issue that, you can see here, it's a billing alert. So this might be that I have a sensor that's tracking my utilization and it hit a threshold. And so now I have to go charge that account back with a little bit more because they've gone past what their allocations are. So it's another way that you can just kind of work within here to make it a little bit easier and more functional as far as building out integration and keeping them running for the lifetime. So as promised, a brief demo, and we're going to get right back to wrap up here, and then we'll address any of the questions that you've had. So as a quick wrap up, I mean, customer experience is not just by us saying this, but it's by Gartner's, Forrester's, other analyst firms, is the biggest battleground for both large and small enterprises. You really have to listen to that customer, and you have to deliver upon your promise, or your competitors will. So you can start to see your bottom line get eaten out just purely based on the way that a customer is interacting with you and nothing about your product or pricing. And then give your teams what they need to do to excel at their jobs. You don't want to have people saying, I could have done a better job if I didn't have to go into 15 systems. I had the data that I wanted, or I didn't know that this customer was already in a really bad state when I called about their upsell renewal. So now I've hurt myself even more because I seem to not have that brand awareness. So there's a lot of things about like why this data was really important to you, but getting it in the right place at the right time is just the absolute critical component. So with that, I'll leave this up and I'll take a look at some of the questions. Feel free to take, if you have a customer experience project underway, take a try of our integration platform. So you have a link there for the free trial. Contact us at sales@ScribeSoft for pricing information or anything that you need there. And then also just take a cruise through our website and see some of the different things that we've done and the solutions that we offer. So the question is around that Twitter example, how do you know that they're negative? So with connectivity on the Scribe platform, everything's a little bit unique and different. Each connector might just give you access to all the dynamic metadata, custom fields and objects. But something like Twitter, you've got the ability, you can put in place sentiment analysis. So I can say, give me any tweets that are around if I'm Acme Tupperware Company. So I'm looking for anything that uses Acme Tupperware Company as far as a user account. And then within there, I can say, if I see the words bad, melt, smells, then I can rank those with negative scores. If I see things like awesome, great, perfect, I can rank them with higher scores. So I can use that sentiment analysis to really track and see what's good, what's bad, what am I indifferent about from those tweets that I'm registering. And that's even another way where if you want to run programs where you want to do loyalty engagement, if you see people are tweeting that you guys are the best, I love you, you're awesome, your products make my life easier, you can reward those individuals as well because you can track and pull that back. So it's not just when things go bad, you can leverage these things when things are great as well. We have another question here just about pricing. I mentioned that earlier. We do price based on it's like tiered, so it's different connections. So if I'm connecting to a couple of different things, then I'm able to have that be a basic, a standard connection pricing tier. Our pricing is all public, so you can go to our website and take a look at it if you're interested in a little bit more. And then if you have a unique opportunity, you can always engage with our sales team and we'll be able to give you a custom quote. We have some more questions around that Twitter connector. So the sentiment scoring is all custom. It's custom to what you want. So you get to pick and choose how you define it. That's one of the other nice things about a platform like Scribe. We don't tell you how to interact with your data or how you should do things. We'll give you our best practices, but it's really up to you. If you think the word bad is good for whatever your product line might be, you can rate that as a positive sentiment. It's all configurable. You can have as little or as many pieces in there, and the logic is really kind of up to you. And that's for anything within Scribe as well. If you wanted to change the integration, you want to add other field mappings, you want to say, I don't use contacts, I use this custom guest object. You can do that kind of change to all your integration mappings within that UI because it's kind of nimble, quick to deploy, and easy to make the changes that you want in there. All right, well, that looks like that's it for the questions, and we're right at the top of the half hour. So I really appreciate all of your time. Thank you for your attention. Thanks for some of the great questions. And like I said, we will send out a recording of this webinar in the next couple of days, so keep an eye out for that. Share it with whoever you wish. It's going to be on demand for anyone who wants to watch it, and we'll include the slide deck with that as well. So thanks, everyone, and have a great day.